Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today in this video I want to talk about, do you really need a 4090? Now there's no arguing that the 4090 is the top of the line card, but it also comes at a very high price, extremely high price. And what I'm going to talk about in this video, it's just my opinion. It's what I think, okay? But I'm going to show a lot of numbers here and things like that, and there's benchmarks all over the place. So there's been plenty of those already. So I'm not going to show any benchmarks, but we're going to talk about some things. Like, do you really need the 4090 for Flight Simulator to max it out, or any game at that? Okay, so first off, let's look here, all right? Notice it says the RTX 4090 is a superior GPU to the RTX 4080 Super, excelling not only in specifications but also in performance with the 24 gigabytes of memory and everything. But in the end, it says 30% in performance. It leads to 4080 Super. Okay, 30%. All right. Now, so what we're going to look at here, first off, we're going to take a look at some benchmarks. Okay. When you go here, all right, the 4090 versus the 4080 Super, okay? Now, we look at these benchmarks, okay? So, and there's a lot of them, and not just right here. You can look all online. There's plenty of these, okay? But it's only showing a 25% better in a lot of areas, and barely any here, But mostly you're looking at the speed, but you're looking at some other things, but it's showing 25 to 37% right here. Peak lighting effects and things like that. So, and there it is, and that's the prices. Okay, I want to say these prices were when it was first released. Okay, and so that's the 4090 versus the 4080 Super. Okay, now when you look over here, we're gonna look at the 4090 price right now. This is on Amazon. Okay. You might find some deals elsewhere, but look at these prices on this 4090. $2638, in $2569. So $2600. So it's safe to say that it is easily $2,500 on an average for that. So I really don't know why over here it's showing 1946. Has it ever been that price? It might have been at one point, but I thought it was like right about 2000. But regardless, it's it's at least 50%, or no, not even 50%. It's like more like 100% more. Twice, 2 to 2.5 times the cost of the 4080. Okay, and when you see here, you're only getting a slight better improvement there. And that's comparing these two, okay? Now, let's also look right here, okay? 4080 Super compared to the 7900 XTX, okay? And when you look at these two, very little. But the prices are almost the exact same between these two cards. It depends on what you want. Do you want a Radeon or do you want a NVIDIA, a GeForce? So, 16% difference is not much. But you have to remember, this card here has more VRAM. That's 7900, so these are really close. And the whole reason I'm doing this video, because I've been shopping, I've been looking around for possibly a new GPU for next year. Okay, so these are like a lot of the ones I'm looking at, and I guess it just depends on what I want, all right, and what maybe have a better deal at the time. Okay, so that's those two. All right, now let's take a look. All right, the prices of the 4080. Okay, and you can see 4080 comes in about $1,000. Okay, a little bit more on some of them, some places. All right, some cards. Now, other sites like Newegg, sometimes you can find a decent deal there too, pretty good, but Amazon is the first place I go when I try to find like the starting price, like a good price on something, okay? And so you can see the 4080 is roughly about 1,000, and some is showing quite a bit more, you know. And it wasn't like that recently, so I don't know what that's about. But yeah, so anyway, but even then, notice it's $1,000 cheaper than the 4090, okay? And now that's 4080 Super. Now let's look at 7900 XTX, okay? And you can see this is less, all right? It is a little below 1,000 here for most all of them, okay? And so that's something to think about, all right? So you have a couple $100 less or so, or even more. It's looking like, for some reason, to me, it's looking like those 4080s are kind of inflated on here for some reason. I'm not sure why it is, but it's looking like that. It could be, you know, something going on with scalpers. You know how that's been, okay, and how that happens off and on, all right? So that's those right there, okay? That's the 7900 XTX compared to the 4080 Super, which is a good comparison. They vary, as I showed you right there, they were very, very comparable as far as everything else goes, speed and everything, you know, really close, okay? So now let's look at the 4070 Ti. I think I got that right here. Yep. 4070 Ti Super compared to the 7900 XT. Now these are also kind of close in performance. Now, it's showing the 7900 XT at 900, but I think it's not that right now. Okay, I think it's less. So that's why I checked the current prices. All right, so right here you're looking at, initially, you know, this was the better deal probably, you know, compared to this, because, you know, you have less money and slightly better performance. But I guess it's safe to say they're really close, you know, on performance. Really, really close. Now, I know a lot of the AMD Radeon cards always seem like they're always higher with all of this. Okay, all of this, like always like a good bit higher, you know. And it says nice to have, but I don't know. But anyway, let's just say these are really close when you compare the two. So it depends on, do you want a Radeon or you want a GeForce? Okay, so you go over here and let's look at these two. Okay, so 7900 XT. Current prices, okay, and so look like on an average between maybe 700 and 800. Okay, so that's what those look like. Okay, now you got to remember this one also has, they have the 7900 XT has 20 gigs of RAM, so that's 4 gigs more RAM than the 4070 Ti Super. Okay, and I'm looking at the Ti Super because that's what most people are gonna, you know, go for if you got Flight Simulator. Okay, so you can see the prices here. 4070 Ti Super. Roughly about the same. Roughly about the same. Maybe a little bit less for the Super. But, you know, it depends on what you want. Like I said, do you want the 4 gigs more of RAM? Or do you want 16 gigs and, you know, for the NVIDIA? And, you know, with the ray tracing and all of that stuff. Which sometimes I think that ray tracing is a bit overrated. So it just depends on what you want, though. Me, I'm a fan of both GeForce and Radeon cards. Both. It just depends on what I'm looking at the time. Okay. So that is those two compared as well. So my dad always taught me when I was younger. He always said, whenever you go to buy something, never buy the top of the line. Always buy one step below, because it's always almost everything the top of the line is at a way better deal. And I wasn't sure what to think when I was younger. You know, when you're younger, when you're, you know, a teenager, you might get, you know, you might be like, oh, I don't know about that, you know, because you always see like the top of the line things. But as years went on, I started realizing he was right. He was right. And this is a good example of that, you know. So a lot of people always mention 4090, 4090, 4090. But here's my opinion, okay? Like I said, it's just my opinion. If you want 4090, go for it. But you can spend about $1,000 on a 4080, or just let's just say $1,000 on one of these video cards, okay? take the other 1500 and put that towards the highest end CPU, a lot of RAM, really good RAM, high-end motherboards, components, hardware. I mean, $1,500 goes a long way when you're building a system. It goes a long way. So if you, if you have 1,500 extra, you just can do a lot with that, and so are you going to throw that $1,500 just to get a 4090 with 30% better when your whole PC could be 100% better? You gotta put a 9950 X3D in, 128 gigabytes of RAM, multiple SD drives, and peripherals. You can get like a yoke and water pedals, and a VR headset. Just think of all you can do with that extra 1,500. And you know what else? Now just imagine if you invest that 1,500. You see what I'm getting at? Okay, so it's just my opinion on where better money might be spent at. Now, you might see a lot of these YouTubers with these big channels, and they're going to have a 4090, but they might actually need that. They might actually need that because I'm going to tell you, when you're recording video and playing at the same time, at least for me, on 2020, my FPS would be dropped almost in half when I recorded compared to not recording. So if you're running a big YouTube channel, of course, you might need the 4090, but most people, it's just overkill and overpriced, so you probably do not need it. So, when you go to buy a GPU, you might want to think about these little things I'm showing you here, because I just don't think it's worth it for most people. The majority of people, it's probably not worth it, It probably isn't. So, for me, next year when I go to grab a GPU, I'm going to probably kind of wait around. It looks like it might be either a 5080, maybe. I might go for that, or I might go for that new Radians that come out, the 8000 series. They may have a 8900 XT out by then, so if they have that out, then I might consider that compared to the 4080 to see what I want to do. So, okay, I hope this this video helps all of you out to try to figure out, if you're looking at a GPU, maybe put some of this into consideration, because that's what I'm doing right now. And, I do think that really a 4080 Super or 7900 XTS currently right now is probably all that you would need in Flight Sim. Probably all that you would need to like max it out and get really, really good performance. It's like if you get with a 4090, if you're getting 100 and something, 110 frames a second or something, or 100 or 80, whatever, the 4080 probably won't get but maybe 10 frames a second less. So that's not really that much of a difference. I don't even think you're going to notice it too much, Alright, so let me know what y'all think in the comments below. What do you think about this? Do you think it really is worth spending $2,500 on an RTX 4090 compared to like about $1,000, a little more, on a 4080 Super? Or, would you go for a 4080 Super over a 7900 XTX for around the same price? So what about the other two, the 4070 Ti compared to the 7900 XT? What about those two? That's a really good comparison. They're so close to, in performance. All right, so thanks for watching. Until next time, bye for now.